This video today is going to teach us how to graph a line. There are two ways we're going to learn this. One is given 2 points, and the other is point and a slope. So let's start with the easiest one. If I'm given 2 points that are on the line, let's say they give us the point 2, 1 and the point 4, 6. Well, to graph a line, all I have to do is plot both points and connect them. So let's start with the first one, 2, 1. We're going to go right 2 spaces, up 1 space, and there's our point. The second coordinate here is 4, 6, so that means I go right 4 and up 6. So there's our second. Now, to finish this, all we have to do is use a straight edge and connect the 2 points that we drew and put arrows on the end to make sure that it shows that the line goes forever in both directions. So graphing with 2 points is probably the fastest way to do it. You just plot both points and connect them. The other way you're going to see this is with a slope. So how can we graph a line with a slope? First of all, we have to understand what slope is. Slope tells you how steep your line is, and it's usually designated with a lowercase m. So if I have a slope of 4 and a slope of 1/2, this slope is going to be steeper. So the higher the number, the steeper the slope, or the steeper the line is. When I have a fraction, like 1/2, it means it's not as steep. Now let's take a look at how we calculate this. Let's go back to our example of having 2 points. So if we have the point 4, 3 and the point, we'll say 8, 7, and I plot both of those points, 4 over 4 up 3, over 8 up 7, and I connect those two, I now have a line. Now, how can I figure out the slope of this line? Well, slope is found by doing rise over run, or your change in y, because your y is what's going up and down, over your change in x, because that is your run, that's what's going left and right. Okay. Alright, so how am I going to do this by counting? Well, I can start on the left side and count up and over until I get to the next point. So I have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. I have to go right 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so my rise is 4. I went up 4. And my run is 4. I went right 4. We all know that 4 over 4 is 1. And so this line has a slope of 1. Now, if I'm not counting, I can actually use this formula right here. Fix it for you. I can plug my y coordinates in to figure out what's my change in y, or my rise. So I can do 3 minus 7. And then on the bottom, I'm going to do my change in x. So 4 minus 8. And so here I get a negative 4 over negative 4, which is a positive 1. And so you can use the slope formula if you have 2 points to figure out what the slope of your line is. Or you can go back over here and count the spaces going from the point on the left to the point on the right. How many spaces do I have to go up? That's your change in y. And how many spaces have to go left or right? That's going to be our change in x. When we are calculating the slope, and I'm given 2 points, 7, 5, and we'll say 9, -2. Alright, if I'm trying to, first of all, if I graph this, 7, 5, I go right 7, up 5, right 9, down 2, and I connect them, I can count the spaces. Only this time, going from the left point to the right point, I had to go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Since I counted down, I'm going to count that -7, and I had to go right 2 spaces. And so, what is my new slope going to be? My change in y was 7, but I went down, so it's a -7. And my change in x was 2. It's a +2. So go from the left point to the right point. If I have to count down, it becomes negative. And if I have to count up, it's positive. So how do I graph a line now if I'm given a point and the slope? So let's say they tell us that the graph goes through the point 0, 2. And the slope of my graph is 3/4. Well, if you remember slope, it's always your change in y, so this is my rise, or I go up 3 units, and right 4 units. That's how you read slope. Now, if it were a -3/4, that means I would count down 3 units and right 4 units. Alright, but since we have a +3/4 slope, let's get rid of that. And let's do this problem. I want to graph this equation, or graph this line, with just a point and the slope. Well, we start with the point, 0, 2. So I'm going to go 0, 2. Now, from that point, I can go up 3 units and right 4 units. So up 1, 2, 3, right 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I have 2 points, so all I have to do is connect them. Put arrows to show that it goes in both directions forever. And so there's only 2 things you need to graph a line. You need the slope and a point, or you just need 2 points. Now, what's special about the 0, 2? You're going to see a term called the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is a fancy term, so where the line intersects or crosses the y-axis. That's going to be an important line when we start looking at equations, or sorry, an important point when we start looking at equations. But for right now, all you have to understand is the y-intercept is right here where it crosses the y-axis. That's generally where you're going to start graphing a line, is the y-intercept. It doesn't have to be that point, but when we start learning about equations, we'll start noticing the y-intercept in them, and that's going to become a very important point to us. So for right now, for graphing a line, you can graph it by having 2 points on the line and connecting them, or you can graph it by starting with a point and using the slope from that point to get to another point.